we have to be very careful when people are making someone who is a very banal and ordinary person, and they project as if they are some kind of goddess. It happened very often in our history. And if you really want to know who is this person who has been catapulted to a level of goddess in Pondicherry, her name is Mother. She was chosen by the French colonialist to project her as if she is a disciple of Shri Aurobindo first. And then she had a mission of overshadowing. She should overshadow the power of Aurobindo in such a way that people should talk more about her than about Shri Aurobindo. Because the French interpreted Shri Aurobindo as a threat to their hollow theology, which they perceived very clearly as something hollow. Christianity is a very hollow thing. They know that every kind of incoherence because anomalies are in Bible. You know what they talk about when they talk about the earth. They speak of the flat earth, and they speak of a geocentric solar system, while it is a heliocentric planetary system, not earth-based. But they even punished Galileo for that. And so we know these kind of incoherences are within the Bible and the religion that it has given birth to. We know very well. But the French colonialist, imperialist who were ruling over some parts of India, but because they couldn't get the large chunk of land because of the already established British colonial power in India as in East India Company. So what happened is the English, the French wanted to put somebody to counter the power of Shri Aurobindo's intellect, which can be challenged for their Christianity theology, which is very fragile and hollow. So they sent they picked up a lady and gave her all education so that she can be well prepared for a job in occultism, as they called occult culture, and they sent her to Egyptian and somebody, a professor of occult religions. I think in Africa there are occult religions like voodoo to everything else. So the French thought that Indian culture is also based on voodoo culture. they were so wild and kilometers away from the reality of the Indian philosophical intellectual heights. They never recognized that the Indian intellectual heights were as high as the Himalayan mountains. So they simply thought that it is like some African voodoo culture, and they trained that lady Mira Alfasa with somebody, Max Theon or somebody like that, and who taught her some occult culture. What? Very shocking. And then she was sent to India. They thought that this luggage of occult culture would enable her to face the Indian soil. They sent her to Pondicherry and to challenge somebody like Aurobindo. We can never think of his intellectual capacity, and these people, French people, poor savage people, thought that they can send a uneducated, spiritually uneducated, I speak. Spiritually uneducated Mira Alfaza, full name was Blanche Rachel Mira Alfaza, because I am from France, no, I know very well the French mentality. Born in Paris on 21 February 1878, Mira Alfaza, called the mother, died on July of 1973 at Pondicherry. She was named Blanche Rachel Mira Alfaza, also nicknamed the mother. In France, she was known as a very banal and ordinary girl who was very average in her studies. The French called her Mira Richard. Her mother, Mathilde Ismaloun, born in Alexandria, Egypt, and her father, Maurice Alfaza, a very fond, very deep Christian man, born in Adrianople, Turkey, both of Jewish faith, of Christian fanatic faith, settled in France in 1877. So they were handpicked. She was handpicked by the French colonial power as the guardian of Christianity, and they sent her to Pondicherry to divert the attention of this European Renaissance who were tracking everything from India, and they were copying everything from India. So their first mission was to divert the Europeans from looking closely at the brilliant intelligence of this fellow Shri Aurobindo. So their practice was to divert Europe from him, and then the world from him, and then Indians should not see him as a very prominent intellectual figure, and they should dilute that impression in an ocean of other kind of intellectual persons. So they planted some other persons so that they cannot think of him as some unique genius, because he was a genius, very unique in his nature, and as unique as Swami Vivekananda, and the people simply were entrapped in a kind of they were victim of manipulation by the British. So that is it. The British also employed, the Max Muller, a German fellow, to invent the Aryan invasion theory, and he regretted when he was on the deathbed. He regretted of working for this kind of nasty theories. He regretted, but it is he was going to die. So all his theories were out and well spreaded. So what is the use of telling it, regretting it, his action? Because he was recruited and paid as an employee by the British East India Company. So as to, they asked him to write this essay of the Indian Aryan invasion theory. What we are looking at, all kind of manipulation by the British, the French, they all wanted to manipulate and control India in the invisible sphere. The unconscious mind, the collective unconscious mind, the collective psyche of the Indians, as they say in French, psyche. That's why I think it's a very it is time to I think of France as a rajasic energy, rajasic power. I felt they were almost near to the Rakshasa, but I didn't want to use the word Rakshasa. I just say rajasic power. But this kind of power cannot be equated with the sattvic quality of our Indian ethics, that is personalized by our great intellectual leader Shri Aurobindo. is a epitome of the intellectual quality that India represents at its best. British, whenever faced with a Mahapurusha like Vivekananda, they will counter somebody, they will send somebody to counter that person. I thought of some kind of mirror image. When you use some, before you used to use some kind of software to copy CDs, mirror image. That kind of mirror image came to my mind. I think they used somebody like somebody who has something nearer to this grand personality of Vivekananda or any other Indian intellectual figure. They will send that to woman. That should be a woman in preference, because they wanted to have a woman beside a man, so that the people are captured by the form of the woman near a man, and they will more interested in the divine nature, because we are sentimentally attached to the mother symbol. We Indians, sentimental feelings. So they know all this. So they sent women and captured our attention, so that the main figure of intellectual grandeur will get diminished, will get somewhat diluted in that presence of a woman. So every time they did it. I don't think I think they may have also some kind of nasty ideas behind this, but it is not proven, so we can reject that proposition, that idea. But what I think is, this deep state, what they call now the Western deep state, which is a collection of church capitalists, power brokers, and oligarchs. They all group together, and when they see someone rising in the horizon of India, overarching power of great intellectual rising in the Indian horizon of the landscape of our Indian intellectual landscape, what they will do is they will want to maintain the status quo of the European superiority. So they want it absolutely to remain intact in the unconscious mind, so that the status quo of the European superiority remains intact, to continue to give this invisible advantage to their commercial products. Because they think that this invisible advantage, the people link automatically to their products, because European superiority is equal to European products of good quality is equal to money they will get by selling those products, and it will be very easy for their advertisement, because everything from France, from Europe, from Germany have some kind of psychic power. They add subliminal images are sent, so that people are mesmerized by their products, so they can maintain their economic clout forever, eternally. And even though they don't have any colonies now, they continue to have the same kind of money flow with this kind of manipulation of the masses. So it is what I wanted to say. To do so, they will need both the help of the church and the oligarchy to cooperate to kill other challengers before even they are born. Before even those kind of challenges can rise, they will uproot those challenges by just asking for collaboration between church and other oligarchy. So the people who have a lot of money and capital and other kind of industries running for them, those are called, these people, monopolists. They monopolize the economic landscape of a country, and they have all the power to control the economic flow of the nation. So they will suddenly send a lady who will be associated with the Gandhiji and with Nehruji. Suddenly we will see Mountbatten's wife courting with Jawaharlal Nehru. Suddenly we will see Paramahansa. Not Paramahamsa, Paramahansa. Yogananda. They will invent some bloody thing and they will train him for, they will groom him to be a Hindu-like Swami, but working for the Christian church. This is very bizarre. They are capable of every kind of tricks, and so that they can have some kind of control over the mind of Indians. So they will send to India suddenly a lady. They have sent a lady, Annie Besant, to Adayar, Chennai, near Chennai, in the guise of a social worker, and she will execute her plan by being among the Indians like a poor lady, walking among them in the ashram to confuse Indians by introducing a new concept that she will call by a Greek word, Sophie, Theosophy, Theosophical Society. Sophie being a Greek word which means knowledge, wisdom. So, what they want is to confuse the Indians by sending people who invent things which is nearer to European culture, Sophie, than to Hindu culture, but labeling themselves as Hindus, somewhat Hindu-driven sages. But if you see through their behaviors, if you interpret their actions, their conduct, their way of behaving, you will see a pattern. They will hide everything as if they are not Christians, but they will do whatever they can to make Hinduism compatible with Christianity so that people are attracted to the Christian religion, because they know how to do that. They will present Hinduism, but only for the namesake Hinduism. But they will take everything out of the Hindu culture and they will replace it with the Christian ideas. This is the tactics for Theosophical Society founded by Annie Besant, whose name is in the educational curriculum of Indian students. Every student in India should read about this kind of spice as someone who is who is helping Indians out of their poverty by serving them as a social service, social assistant, whatsoever. This kind of things are happening even now, because in our in the books of students, even now we can find our name in lessons to be learned by our students. So your children may be learning about Annie Besant as a social service person who came to India to get the Indians out of their poverty and helped them while British were plundering India. Well, on the one side, the British were doing their plundering. On the other side, they will post somebody like a social service provider to confuse people. No, that the people will not look at the plunder; they will look at the lady who is acting like a social service person. And another thing is this German scholar Max Müller was very cunningly selected by the British East India Company and to post this Aryan theory. But you know, the Aryan word, not knowing, Hitler himself was very attracted to the Aryan notion and the Aryan symbol of or in, the swastika symbol was a symbol of auspiciousness. But Hitler chose that symbol. And he gave that symbol for his party, while what he did with his party was to get elected and in order to eliminate the Jews and commit a huge genocide on this Jewish population in Europe. So these people think that choosing Aryan is racial, their superiority. It is about racial superiority, but not knowing that Aryan in Sanskrit means just a noble person, not without any racial connotations. That is simply a very noble person, Arya. And Dravidia means somebody who comes from where the three oceans meet. That's all. Three. In French they say three, trois. In English they say three. Dra, three. The link between the Sanskrit and the English and the European language is very clear. They learnt everything from us, not the other way around. All this went from out of India. We have never imported anything from Europe, but only they imported from us. So, what I want to tell is this Sanskritam word, Aryan, means just a noble person and has no racial connotation whatsoever. In his ignorance, he chose swastika, the Hindu symbol of auspiciousness, to use it as a symbol of his demoniac party. Anthropometry is a science, like eugenics and everything. It was invented by these so-called scientists of the European culture. They used to measure the nose of the people of India so as to determine their the standard of their intellectual capacity, and I don't know why to prove that the Europeans were superior to the Indians. So the length of the nose, the physical features, they were used to measure all those things. And they used to publish it in magazines, so as if it is a science. But when the genetics began to grow in the scientific fields, the discovery, they find many discoveries. They found many discoveries, and what they found was a conclusion that although rubbish they invented from since the English started this racial theory, etc., was all those findings were to be thrown to the dustbin as rubbish. So they still remain. The copy will remain always a copy and never become an original. So we should retain this truth. God will never permit a copy to become an original, great work of originality. All these ideas, and why it comes from these fellows, these Western fellows, because they are a dualistic mindset. Their dualistic mindset is a kind of mindset that pushes them to view the humanity as two groups. One group of persons for them, with them, and because they are white, that is a unique condition to fulfill. If you are white, you are racially superior. That's all. And all other people who are on the other side, they were grouped under under the pagan, ideal worshippers and everything. So there was just two groups. Christian God said, all those who do not worship me are satanic. They should be thrown to the hell. So this two mindset of binary mindset was ingrained, embedded in their religion itself. So it's not a very strange thing that they continue to practice it in spite of their, in an unconscious way, I think. Maria Rith, Mariawrith, she is a German author, and she warns us very precisely. She tells this thing: all religions cannot be the same, because all thoughts cannot be same. It's very simple and logical. A plunderer, a murderer, he has a set of thoughts that pushed him to murder somebody, to plunder somebody, to steal, to rob somebody. So a background, a pattern of thoughts push somebody to act in some way, in some particular way. All thoughts are not to be evaluated at the same level. This is a very great danger, because people in India used to tell, Ganesh, all religions are the same. Why do you say that Christianity is bad and Hinduism is superior to Christianity? You are a superiority. You are suffering from superiority complex. No, it is just a simple logical conclusion that when you read verses in these Abrahamic religions, you cannot conclude those thoughts will lead to some peaceful activities. Of course, we see in the news also all kind of terrorist attacks and going on from these Abrahamic minded fellows. So we know that only that kind of thoughts will push men to act in such kind of criminal activities. So it is very clear that there is a link between what you think and what you become, and how you act and how you do things, and how you are behaving in the society. Are you going to lay bombs and burst some explode the buildings of somebody, or just going to temple and praying and meditating upon the all-pervading consciousness? All that is up to the level of thoughts only. When you have good thoughts, you are different from those who are bad thoughts. So there are two kinds of thought-based religions: Abrahamic and non-Abrahamic, dualistic and non-dualistic. What to do? We have to just observe and accept this fact. We cannot say no. It is something. All religions are same. Maria Rith, German lady, she is saying that all religions are not same, and she is a Christian German woman. When somebody from a white lady says this, Indians will be pleased to yeah. But if I say this, this is an Indian, Tamilian, what to do with this? What is talking about? We will only believe with the persons who are white in color, in skin color. This shows the deep inferiority complex of Indians. They are incapable of judging who is having the quality of the thoughts of people, and they cannot discriminate between good thoughts and bad thoughts. So they are going after the Western people who are full of bad thoughts, and their greed, their sort of conquering the world with their money power, their army, their hegemonic tendency. All these things in India, we don't care because they are white, and everything will be whitewashed. so as to say. So Gandhiji also was, they tried to contain him, but they found a kind of technique to contain him. So they have no necessity to place a woman or something like that, because he was himself getting more and more subservient to the British Empire. So they said, "Oh, this poor fellow is coming to us nicely and listening to our orders. No problem. We can keep him like how he is." And they judged him very quickly. He is not worthy of sending somebody to counter him, and because his intellectual power is not as great as Shri Aurobindo or other persons. And I want to precise to tell a story of a great intellectual person from India, Jiddu Krishnamurti. When when doing research on his birth, I was shocked to see that he was brought up he was taken away from a family and taken away from his own family, and the British wanted to groom him into some kind of a British person with an accent of British, so that he can communicate all kind of ideas of Hinduism through the channel of British, through the British channel, so that he will be in conformity with the British ethics. He has been brought up by them, so he is 100% in conformity with their ethics. So there is no problem. It is some kind of, it is reminding me of this technique the Turkish people used when they brought up some kind of Western people in their army, and they brought up from childhood, so as these Western white people will wage war against their own Europeans. They will be the first line of in the army, line of order. So what it shows is Janissaries. They are called Janissaries. I remember very well. I was a professor of civilization, Indian civilization, and I had the necessity. I was in French. Everything was I spoke in French, and Janissaries were a kind of army men who were European in origin. From European origin, they came from European countries, but they were being groomed by the Turkish Empire to serve the Turkish Empire. So they were very faithful to loyal to their Turkish masters. So they did all kind of activities. They fought against their own brothers for the sake of the Turkish Empire. So this kind of techniques the British used they mastered very well. And as I told you before, we have seen 3 examples. One is Annie Besant, who created this Theosophical Society. This Paramahansa Yogananda, and this lady mother is Max Muller, and many others are there. Donc it is not just these examples. So what we can conclude is this: to fulfill this void of the theological incoherence and weaknesses in the biblical books, the dogmatic religion, whatever we can find in Bible. There are many incoherences, and so they wanted, the British and the white people wanted not to jeopardize with this kind of fragility with logical and grand narrative from Indian intellectuals. So what they did was to send all kind of people to counter these intellectual people. they will ask those, they will send them to become a disciple first, and then this disciple will grow into a grand personality, and will have more power and overarching personality, so that they will overshadow the intellectual real power of the Indian man. Their tactics is to overshadow this glorious personality of the Indian sage and the wise man, so that he will not be put in the limelight and will not be talked about in India, and all these people, Indians, will not derive some kind of pride of having such a personality among them. They didn't. All this is a subtle war against your own mind, who should not think great of yourself, your own ancestors, because you should think very low of yourself and your ancestors, so that you can be prepared to embrace Christianity. You can be prepared to spit on your own religion and come to the religion of Christianity. This is the idea of the Western people, not only French, but in general they are one and the same in their approach of Hinduism. They were brought up like in this Abrahamic culture as one family. You know, the Roman Empire was stretching all over Europe, not only in Rome, Italy, but also everywhere. They brought their Roman religion, the Christian religion, to Spain, to Portugal, to France, to Germany, to England. But England had its own church, Anglican church. Germany had their own Protestant Lutheran church, and also Christianity, Catholic church also were there. But really, it's a very shocking tendency now. More and more churches are closing their doors, and many Hindu temples are being built in their places. So the growing interest for Hinduism is just began to point its is coming out of the is just beginning to make its presence felt since some only recently. I think some months ago, I think I heard about this news of the German church losing 84,000 members suddenly, because they didn't want to be part and parcel of this church. They wanted to quit this church. So, all these things. So, what we want to conclude is this kind of parachuting a mother to a faraway country like tropical India is not very easy for the French. So they took a very great care to groom this woman from the childhood, when the young age, and they sent her to learn some occult culture in Egypt and somewhere in the North African country. I think it is Tunisia or somewhere Algeria or something like that. She was everywhere to learn this occult culture, because the French thought she should be well specialized in occult culture, that is kind of magic culture, because they thought that Hinduism is a magic religion. Magicians is a sorcery. So they used to speak about Hinduism as kind of sorcery. Sorcery is sending some magical spells and on people to make them, to punish them and to make them do whatever we want them to do, by just sending them some magical elements, spell. So, by this kind of mentality of the French made them to choose this woman. From very carefully they placed her in the North African context to learn some kind of occult education, and then they sent her to carefully to Pondicherry, and suddenly she met Aurobindo, and she was enthralled by his philosophy and became one among his disciples, and was catapulted as a lady of a prominent position, but all the way receiving money from the French colonial power. All people can verify this. She had got money from the French colonial power to do this mission. So I had the proof from the French archive. So I think people should research more about this kind of things, and bring about these proofs against this kind of anti-national people who are pretending to be lady of Maria Teresa. The Teresa, she was considered as a saint lady, and was even promoted as a saint by the Vatican. But what happened to the real life of life? Teresa was a very cunning and a very cruel woman. She will never give medicines to the poor people who are dying, and she will leave them dying. So whatever they say, you should use your own brain and conclude about all these things. So I think I am going to give the whole essay I wrote about this. In the description, you will find all the. I can say that I am very, very glad to bring this to your knowledge, because this is not very well known, because people think even now at Pondicherry, ma'am, the mother is very great and everything, and I am the first, I think, to discover all kind